My name is Nassim Sabs.
Should the world be afraid? The world is meant to be afraid. Are you with me? So you have thesis, you have antithesis. In the world wars, they said communism is the threat. You are supposed to be afraid so that you will accept any changes that are necessary to meet the threat. Now, they're using this as the next threat to create the synthesis that they want.
So, Joe, there's an obsession, isn't there? You know, throughout time with these reptilian lizard entities that certainly aren't from our dimension, our world, and we can go way back into ancient times, right?
Man, that's what this is all about. Let's just start out by at least coming to an agreement that history as we know it is not the real history of the planet. I think we can both agree on that, right?
Oh, absolutely, dude.
Right. So instantly, that is something that has to be acknowledged first and foremost. Secondly, there's been evidence of intelligent life that is non-human, that has walked the planet. A great example of that is the elongated skulls down in South America. So, not human DNA, but certainly something of an intelligent life form that roamed the earth. Again, like I said, it's much more like Lord of the Rings back then than it was cavemen and Neanderthals and things like that. So I find it extremely plausible. As a matter of fact, I'm banking on it that there were reptilians.
Well, Joe,
and
as well.
Probably many other species, Kev.
Yeah, and in recent times, doing a bit of digging into some of the shows I've been preparing for, I came across a story about tribes in the Amazon. It was, and how they absolutely revered midgets, little people. You know, so that obviously comes from some time in the past. There's some story attached to people, small people.
Yeah. Oh, man, it certainly is. I am absolutely thrilled to get into some of the things that we're getting into. What a great thing to get into reptilians.
Well, let me show you one of the timelines that I came across today, right? Because this is quite interesting. And it takes us back to the time of, and these are entities that we need to look at if we're going to be discussing this, but stories of the Anunnaki, Joe. And we come back here.
Very good, very good.
And this particular timeline takes us to 6,000 BC, and we go back to Sumeria, the Sumerian city of Nineveh, right? Then you come forward, and this is the bit I want us to kind of discuss here. 5,000 BC, it says Sumerian creation myth of Enki, Eridu settlement began. Now, you were the one that really started to open my eyes to this whole thing with Enki and the Lost Book of Enki and stuff, the Lost Book of Enoch and stuff like that, Joe. So this is really, really interesting. And this is one of the points where I think you'd have to put on our timeline, on our evidence board, a kind of data point, that there seems to have been some kind of outward intervention round about this point, right?
Oh, there's most certainly that. Let me give you, since you brought up Enoch, I'm looking up the generations of Noah. And what do we got there?
Never cut down a fairy tree.
Never cut down a fairy tree. And if you ever hear music in the forest that shouldn't be there, don't go towards it, right? Because I heard that might be you heading towards a fairy circle. And magical forests. And I bet you that's where some of these reptilians, Joe, used to hang around.
Oh, absolutely. The generations up to Noah actually had a meaning, believe it or not. And I'm trying to find that code. So bear with me 1 second, because it's pretty amazing. It basically, the generations, when you take the first names of the men going up through from Adam to Noah, it actually means something, because each name means something in Hebrew, and it translates, and it's a code, and it's an unbelievable code. So I'm trying to get it right now. Let's see. Adam to Noah.
Well, when you dig that up, right, I'm going to go back to this here because I find this quite interesting, right? Because it says here, after the Anunnaki genetically altered the primitive pre-human bipeds in Africa to make human slaves, they put them to work in the fields and building their massive temples called ziggurats. Now, this is
ziggurats, right?
Yeah, this is one of the partially constructed temples. All of their temples were destroyed in the inter-family war between the Anunnaki. So you can see that there, and even this down here,
isn't that interesting?
Badass, man, badass.
Yeah. Now, interestingly enough, the Tower of Babel, the actual foundation of the Tower of Babel, still exists today, and you can go visit it. It's called the Ziggurat of Eridu. So since you're talking about ziggurats, that's another important ziggurat. The Ziggurat of Eridu is the actual Tower of Babel. It's what's left of it. So if there's another piece of history that you can actually go and validate as being authentic, and it's something else. I found it. So each generation from God to Noah actually foretold something. Listen to this. So you basically had this. You have God, right? He creates Adam. And then the from there it goes Seth, Enosh, Kenan, Mahalalel, Jared. Then there's Enoch. Then there's Methuselah. Then there's Lamech. And then there's Noah. Now, each name means something in Hebrew. So Adam means man, right? Then Seth means is appointed. And so, like, I think my name in Italian is like little salad or something like that. I don't know what it is, but you get what I'm saying. It means something. So when you take all those names and you take their meanings together, this is what it says. The God, man is appointed, a mortal man of sorrow is born. The glory of God shall come down, instructing that his death shall bring those in despair comfort and rest. Bam. That's what it means in Hebrew. All those, if you read them in order.
Where's my Anunnaki and aliens in there, dude?
Right? So interestingly enough, pre-flood, dude, there was all of these different species, if you will, and giants and everything else. So if you look at the real history of the Earth,
check this out as well, Joe. This ties in with it, right? Because then this is where this comes in. Look, you've got potential genetic creations.
Genetic creations, yeah, dude.
You see?
Yep.
And this is what, if they're making statues of these things, like making carvings to last in time, Joe, I don't think it was like the ramblings in the mind of like the ancient Banksy. I don't think they just unleashed some kind of graffiti artist on there. They were literally showing us things, But
question, why do you think, and this is total speculation, I don't expect you know the answer, nor anybody know the answer, but why do you think it was so important for them with some of the technology that they possessed? Why do you think everything was stone? Like, what do you think? Why stone was so important? Because if you look at today, like our modern technology,
I think science and everything else was more natural. It was more harnessing the elements of the earth and working with natural kind of sciences and magic.
Like, do you think like here. Do you think like the earth, wind, fire, that whole concept of harnessing the elements
And to
in
move
that
stone
way.
and to move
Do you think that's where that came from? You think?
and to move stone and to make things so absolutely massive and to last the course of time, you know, that's the ultimate, isn't it? If you're harnessing these kind of earth powers, earth energies, to take those massive, the heaviest things on the planet, put them together in structures like that, make walls where you're literally showing that you can, in my opinion, you've got science that's going down to the molecular level, Joe. We've spoke about this before. You look at some of the walls that you see created, it's almost like they're molded together, right? And how much of this technology has actually been given to us from information that comes from them, comes from other beings, comes from other entities. And if that's the case, if there's just one slight chance of that, and I know this is deep woo, then we better watch what we're building out here, because they're handing us the keys to all of this technology, and it ain't for our benefit. We can see that. We can see how this is all leading towards some kind of control, some kind of greater oppression upon us. It's not setting us free, that's for sure. In fact, it's taking us more and more into this future where the Vatican, they'll totally come clean, Joe. They'll tell us one day, you know, okay, it's not God we're actually worshipping, folks. Here's the New World religion, and it's one of these big bad boy scaly things that we're actually praying down to. That would not surprise me.